Hello everybody and welcome back to the channel, where today you're joining me on a very special video because we don't get to do this very often. We've only done one before, and that is to compile together a tier list of PSVR2 games. Now I think there are about 57, maybe 58 games here, something ridiculous like that I've played this year. Some of these on this list at the time recording are under embargo, or I haven't played them yet, so depending on when the embargoes lift, some of this video may have to be cut, because for games like Vertigo 2, I'm not sure when the embargo is going to lift at the time recording, so I'm going to talk about the game's content rather than the PSVR2 version of it, and that's where my ranking is going to place it. But if my review's out already, you'll know my rating anyway. But yeah, that's how we're going to handle that situation. But yeah, without further ado, let's get straight into it. Well, I did say without further ado, but today we do have a sponsor for today's video, who I have to say a massive thank you to. This is VR Wave. VR Wave are a company that specialize in VR lenses, specifically for this video, PSVR2 prescription lens corrections. Essentially, they'll handle your nearsightedness, your farsightedness, and they're tailor-made to your eye prescription, which sit right in the PSVR2 lenses, flush in there, meaning you no longer have to handle glasses inside your headset that potentially could scratch your lenses. Even for people like me with vision that's perfectly good, these are actually great for just protecting your lenses. I've kept my lens protectors on at all times, my VR lenses, because I don't want the normal lenses on the actual headset to get scratched. I can easily replace a set of VR lenses that go over the top of my actual ones, but if the actual PSVR2 lenses get scratched, well, it's game over, and VR Wave help mitigate that. They also have a magnetic design, so they're really easy to switch between if you got multiple people playing on the headset. You can order at www.vrwave.store by filling out the online form of what prescription and coating you want, and they also provide worldwide shipping. And they also have a Christmas sale starting this week, where they're doing $5 off all lenses ordered. Thanks again to VR Wave for sponsoring this video. Without further ado, let's get on to it. First of all, we have Jurassic World Aftermath. This one sits a little bit higher for me, I think, than most people, because I'm a Jurassic fan. Its gameplay's pretty decent, but repetitive. Enemy variety is okay. So we're starting off in the middling tiers here. I think I'm going to put Aftermath in B, and I have a feeling that I put it there last time we did this list as well. But Aftermath, I think, sat in B last time, and I think I'm going to put it there again. My opinion hasn't really changed. I played through a bit of it again since then, and I think it's just the texture work as well. Like, they do what they can in terms of textures to make the game look as good as it can, because it's originally a quest game, but you can tell that it is a quest game. It does run really smoothly though, don't get me wrong, and the actual encounters are pretty fun, but I think it sits in B. It's in that middling tier. I really do enjoy it, but I understand if somebody would put it a bit lower because of the repetitive gameplay and the visuals. Budget Cuts Ultimate, I think, will also go in B, because this is a game that came out, the visuals weren't that great. Those have now been fixed, I can confirm that. The visuals look pretty damn good now. I just think the game does show its age a little bit in terms of VR mechanics, and how repetitive some of the layouts are, especially in the later game. You can get lost very easily, and I don't think that's really by design. It's just by limitations of the game itself and maybe the budget. But yeah, I think Budget Cuts Ultimate, I did really enjoy, but it's not really up the higher echelons of VR for me. It sits in that middling tier, just like Jurassic World Aftermath. Another Fisherman's Tale. Right, this one took me by surprise a little bit. I really like the story and the way it's presented. I'm tempted to put it in B, but I think for the story, it really did hit me. And it's a creative game. It's a really creative game. And they do their best with, I'm assuming what was their budget wasn't the biggest. And it kind of gives you several mindfucks throughout all of it in terms of visuals. I'm going to slap a Fisherman's Tale, or another Fisherman's Tale, sorry, in A. Really enjoyed my time with that one, even though some of the mechanics were a bit frustrating. Saints and Sinners Chapter 1 is straight up to S. It's pretty much flawless in terms of what it goes for. It's an open world kind of zombie game with survival mechanics. It is essentially my Last of Us simulator. I have said that many times before. It's the easiest S so far, because there's only one S, but it also is just a very easy S. I really enjoyed that one. It's a classic, and if you haven't played it, you should play it. Cactus Cowboy Plants at War, I think, is the subtitle for Cactus Cowboy, the first game. I haven't played the second, so it's not on this list. And I think that's going to go in C. I respect what the solo dev is going for, and it's absolutely incredible that they made it by themselves. There's one guy behind all this. And they published it on the PS Store by themselves. I think the sequel is received a lot better. The original although it is free, like, I'm not, going to complain about that. It's free, it's great, but I can't really compare it to the quality of even the B tier games at the moment. But it is nowhere near D tier, like, it's not down there at all. I would say it sits in C for me. I'd understand if people want to push it up further, but for me, I thought that some of the audio leveling issues were a little bit, like, iffy. The audio was off a little bit. But yeah, I did enjoy it. It just isn't really up there past C tier for me, so it'll sit there. But I understand if people would put it further up there, definitely. For Beat Saber, easiest S of my life. It's Beat Saber, it's a classic, it's pretty much perfect. It does exactly what it sets out to do, and originally the port was okay, but wasn't great on PSVR2. It's all been fixed now with the haptics and the detection. Easy S. Kayak VR Mirage for me as well. I think we'll now go up to A. I think I might put it in A last time. I want to put it in S, I really do, but there needs to be more content before I do that. I absolutely love this game, I adore it, but I've only spent about, I'd say, 5 to 6 hours in it, which is quite a lot for the content that it offers. But the visuals are just amazing, so it pushes it up to A. The immersion's great. The soundtrack's, I think, copyright free, but also the songs they've chosen are pretty great as well and fit every single map they're put with. Brilliant game, I just wish it had more content, and there is more content coming. As soon as that happens, for the next year's tier list, if we have content by then, it'll go up to S, but for now it's in A. Next, Resident Evil Village, easy S. I just completed this a couple weeks back. Fucking phenomenal game, absolutely ridiculously good. VR interactions are better than they should be for a flat to VR port. Visuals are just nuts. Set pieces are great, the gun mechanics are great. Love this one from start to finish. Amazing game, honestly. So, Resi Village and S. Synth Riders, I'll also put A. It's basically a bit like Beat Saber, but I don't quite find it as engaging. It's also got some good licensed music and some good royalty-free music that they made themselves. But yeah, Synth Riders, I do understand why somebody would put it in S. For me, it's just not quite as satisfying and doesn't really make me feel like I'm working out as much as Beat Saber does. But it is a really good game in its own respect. So, Synth Riders, easy A, good game. Across the Valley, that's a D for me. It's just, I don't know, it's a point-to-point kind of clicking and moving game where you're on your farm and there's no free locomotion. The tasks you're doing are pretty mindless and aren't really great with interaction. The management of the farm leaves a lot to be desired. The visuals really aren't great. I was quite nice to it in my review for it back in the day. I don't think with the experience I've had now with games and reviewing, I would have been that nice to it now if I got my hands on it. Gonna sit in D for me. I couldn't really recommend this one, unfortunately, as of now, unless you're really into like agricultural stuff. Gorn as well, I think will sit in C for me. It's a classic. I loved it on PSVR 1, but it really showed its age with the port to PSVR 2, and there are some baffling decisions here, especially with smooth turning, that turns on this horrendous tunneling, which I just don't know why it's in the game. That being said, it is satisfying, and it is a really fun combat game at points. It's got some really good physics. It fits what the game is going for, but unfortunately, it just doesn't hold up as good as I'd like it to sit in B tier or higher. So I think C tier will go for Gorn. Garden of the Sea is an A for me as well. I absolutely adored Garden of the Sea, my time with it. It's a relaxing game. You can take it at your own pace. It looks great. It plays great. It's really cute. It's not an action-oriented game by any means, but it is a great one to relax in. So easy A for Garden of the Sea. Probably the best survival game on PSVR 2 is Song in the Smoke. I'm going to put it in A for now. I've played, I think, 3 hours of this game, and I really need to do a further analysis into it and do a video on it, I think, because it really is great. But for me, it's an A for now. But if I explore the systems of the game more in the future, there might be more that kind of it brings to the front for me in terms of making it an S tier game. I can understand why some people would put it in S. I've seen people put it in S before. For me, it's an A. The visuals and the smoothness of the game are great. But in terms of immersing me, it wasn't quite there yet for some reason. It might be the visual style that I don't fully mesh with, but maybe I need more time with it. For now, though, it's sitting in A, and hopefully in the future, if I revisit it again, it'll go up to S. Hopefully. Swordsman VR, I think, will now go up to A, because it used to be B, I think, possibly, unless I didn't rank it last time. But up until a couple weeks ago, I would have put it in B, because it does have some really bad issues with crashing, especially on PSVR 2. It hasn't crashed on me yet since the last update. It's genuinely a fun game. I think they're adding co-op in the future too, if I remember right, which is just, that's fucking awesome. But yeah, it's the only option for a melee combat game we really have on PSVR 2. If Blade and Sorcery got ported over, that would be a leg up on it, and that would be an easy S. But as an arena fighter, Swordsman does exactly what it sets out to do and accomplishes it pretty well. So Swordsman in A, really fun game. A lot of fun mechanics in that one. Good combat, it's pretty brutal. And a lot of fun bosses and boss weapons. So Swordsman, you can go in A. Horizon Call the Mountain, easy S, some amazing sights, some of the best sights on PSVR2, and I've said this before, it really does have some of the best sights on PSVR2. It's got some great haptics, some really, really good character models and animations, fun mechanics. The climbing is the best I've ever played in VR in terms of climbing mechanics, which is good because it's the main thing you do in the game. Lots to explore, lots to pick up and interact with. Blew me away. Love Horizon. Saints and Sinners 2, Chapter 2, A Retribution. I think with the fixes, I'll now put an S. I ran into a lot of bugs, I think, the last time when I did an S to D tier ranking of the games. And I think I might have put it in A. But for now, S, I think it does sit in because it basically expands on everything the first game does. And they fixed most of the issues that the game has enough for me to comfortably put an S. Because when it was in A, there were certain missions that stuff wouldn't like trigger and I wouldn't be able to progress. And I'd have to reset from the last checkpoint, which isn't the biggest deal, but it's not really what you want. And while the game was phenomenal outside of that, that's what pushed it down a tier. And now that that's been sorted from the last time I played, S tier for Saints and Sinners 2, definitely. Job Simulator, for me, is a B tier. I know for some people, maybe if they have kids as well, it'll be A. But for me, B tier, it doesn't really keep me that engaged. But as a first VR experience, like I said in my Christmas PSVR2 video, it is great to show somebody the ropes of VR. But for me, who's played quite a lot of VR games, Job Simulator was a classic. Not quite enough to hold my attention nowadays. But it is classic, so I feel kind of criminal putting it in B, but it just doesn't grip me like a lot of games do in terms of the VR space nowadays. But I pay my respects to it. It's a real OG VR game. Puzzling Places, also an easy S for me. Phenomenal game, absolutely great. Sound design, lovely. The scans of each of the environments are great. It's really relaxing. You can choose the size of your puzzle if you want to spend little time or a lot of time on it. Awesome, absolutely love Puzzling Places. I have nothing bad to say about this game at all. It's impossible for me to talk bad about this game. There's nothing wrong with it. It's purely just relaxing VR fun, and I love it. Demeo is also a game I'd like more time with, but from my time playing of it, it is also in S, I think. I played a little bit more since my last tier list video, and Demeo is honestly great. It's basically like D&D, a mix of D&D and other tabletop games, but in VR. So you throw the dice, you roll the dice, and you can also expand the tabletop to kind of immerse yourself in it if you want to get more of a ground level view. It's got some great animations, some really cool levels ranging from easy to hard. Demeo is a lot of fun, especially with friends. The Light Brigade, put in that an S. The Light Brigade is a phenomenal roguelite, maybe the best roguelite on PSVR2. Not sure, maybe Synapse is tied with it, but it's got such a plethora of mechanics that are so damn good. Some boss fights that are so satisfying. They're hard, but they're fair, and it really is kind of like the Dark Souls, but with guns that's on PSVR2. And it's also got some really cool world building that I do appreciate. Light Brigade, love the devs, love the game, amazing stuff. No Man's Sky, some people gave me shit last video for putting it in B tier. I understand that if you're coming from the view of now, but back then it was a shit show. It looked terrible, it played pretty decently, like the mechanics were the same, but it just looked so shimmery and bad. But after the updates, it's an S. It looks great. It's got 10 years worth of content. Amazing VR game. Possible PSVR2 game of the year, but that's debatable. But goddamn, No Man's Sky is it's a must pick up if you own a PSVR2, especially on sale. If you're not sure, get it on sale. But it is amazing. Such a good game. I've gotten so much mileage out of the one creative save that we have on the ongoing series, where we just explore. I think I've got like 15 hours of playtime out of that one save alone, just exploring planets and upgrading ships. Amazing. Pavlov is Pavlov. It's the best VR shooter, I think, at the moment on PSVR2 in terms of multiplayer. I don't think there's any other game on this list that can really challenge it at the moment in terms of PvP. Pavlov is the GOAT. It might always be the GOAT. We'll see. Ghost of Tabor may knock it off the top once it comes to PSVR2, but for now, Pavlov, it's pretty much the perfect VR shooter. Absolutely. Red Matter 2 is also an S, and Red Matter 2 is just such a masterpiece of a game. It's the perfect length for me in terms of like puzzles and that type of gameplay. I can only handle so much, but but it runs at native resolution, no reprojection, looks and feels real. It's one of the first PSVR2 games where I really just lost myself fully in it because of that non-reprojection and the frame rate that it has. It felt real, and I will always remember playing Red Matter 2 for the first time and jumping in for a review. Amazing game, absolutely nuts. Easy S. Travel the Words, you're sitting in D tier. I think it's also made by one dev, but it is just kind of like a game for kids, educationally. I really don't get much out of it. It's similar to Across the Valley in terms of engagement for me. Walkabout Mini Golf, you're going in S as well. Hang on, we put it here in front of Red Matter 2. It's the best party game for PSVR 2 in terms of having a load of players on the same game. It's just ridiculously good. You get so much value for money in terms of the maps as well. If you buy the pass, whether you buy them individually, one of the best looking, best playing, most fun PSVR 2 games. Walkabout Mini Golf is just a must buy for anybody that really owns a headset, or has any mates that own the headset and they want to play with. Perfection. After the Full Complete Edition, I do enjoy After the Full, but I think we'll go. It didn't. I don't know. It doesn't grab me as much as the A tier games. We're going to go in B as well, but I think I'd sit it slightly higher than some of the other games in B. I wish I had categories inside categories, tiers inside tiers. After the Fall is fun with friends, definitely, but I feel the gameplay does get a bit repetitive, and I don't really enjoy that much, like the on-rails type of shooter that After the Fall is. It's basically like Left 4 Dead, the closest thing we have to it, in terms of co-op zombie killing. And I appreciate the game, but it's not quite up there in terms of A. I think it's due just to interaction and how repetitive the gameplay can get. Yeah, I still have fun in After the Fall, but it's not an A tier game for me. Gran Turismo 7, the amount of times I've gushed over this game, it's S, easy S. It's a transcendent experience on a wheel. Everybody that has tried it with a wheel knows that. It's amazing. If you haven't played GT7, please do yourself a favor and go play it. Amazing game. Honestly, just ridiculously good. It is AAA VR at its best, like Horizon Call the Mountain, like Village, like Resi 4. It's amazing. Zenith, I think after playing it a bit more, I would put it still in B, I think. It's really out there. It tries a lot, but I think it kind of falls short in terms of interactions, which is what I like kind of cement myself in with a lot of VR games. Picking up stuff around the world and interacting with stuff and attacking enemies and how those enemies react is a really important thing, and I don't think Zenith has quite nailed it yet on that front. It's got a lot of content, but for me it kind of feels like a mile wide and an inch deep. But I think with more updates, I'll see where the game goes. I have it, so I'm going to be jumping in from time to time, and I do really enjoy it. That's why it's in the middle tier. It's not lower down, but it's a lot of opportunity and a lot of potential that it's not quite grasped yet, I think. Switchback VR, I want to go with S now. With the visual improvements, with the Horde mode they've added, and with the OG campaign, I think Switchback is S for me. It's like, it really hits that itch of that Until Dawn Rush of Blood rollercoaster game that I really wanted. It's got some great features with the eye tracking and stuff like that. It looks great now. The haptics are good. Switchback is kind of like the game that I'd put somebody on if I wanted them to try PSVR 2 in terms of horror stuff. I don't think I'd throw them straight into Village, and I'm kind of regretting not putting this game on my PSVR 2 Christmas games list, which is a bit of an oversight now that I think about it. It should have been there. Switchback is great. I do love it. Vampire the Masquerade Justice, I also really enjoyed. I can't really convey that in footage that you're probably seeing right now, because that video is in about 20 FPS, because the social screen is incredibly jittery. Jittery isn't a word. It's incredibly jittery and janky, but inside the game, everything's really smooth. It does have variable frame rates, so sometimes it does drop in bigger environments in the game, but not by much at all. And I absolutely loved my time with Vampire the Masquerade Justice. Fun stealth game. Really enjoyed it. So, thumbs up from me there. A lot of fun. Synapse, also an S. We're getting a lot of S tier games. I mean, that just kind of goes to show how I felt about a lot of these launches in these games and the fact that they're an S. Synapse is, again, maybe tied for best roguelike that I've ever played in terms of VR, with the Light Brigade, kind of on the same level for me. The telekinesis powers in the game are they're just so good. They're phenomenally good. And it's one of the most satisfying shooters that I've ever played. The art style is also awesome. So, big up to the Synapse team at End Dreams. They did a great job. Propagation Paradise Hotel. Some people might have a go at me for this. It's going to go in A. It's got some really good mechanics in it. Some great atmosphere, some great scares. but it feels like half a game. And if you've completed the game, you kind of understand what I mean by that, by the ending. So it's going to sit in A. It's got some real potential. I want to see where it goes. If a sequel comes out and it expands on everything that Paradise Hotel did well, I think that'll be an S, but for now it's an A. The length is good, the VR interactions and gameplay is good, but it's not quite S because it does feel like it has a bit of missed potential. But maybe that's just because of budget constraints and time constraints. It probably is, but it sits in A for me for now. Now, Red Matter is also going to go in A. It's not quite as good as Red Matter 2 because I think the runtime was about 1 hour and 40 minutes for me, which really isn't too much. And also the visuals, while they're still mind-blowingly good, aren't quite as good as Red Matter 2 because of the tech that they poured into 2 over 1. But the upgrade for Red Matter is still really worth playing. It's an amazing game, but it's in A for me and not in S because that length and the puzzles felt a lot more repetitive and less creative than Red Matter 2's. So it's not quite at the same level, but it's almost there. Green Hell VR. While I enjoy a lot of the good stuff in this game, the loading screens and the visuals kill it a little bit for me. The loading screens between areas just kill that open world vibe that I really think it should have tried to nail down. This should have been the PCVR version of the game if possible. It shouldn't have been the Quest version with the loading screens between areas and with the degraded visuals. The resolution isn't even all that great with the lowered textures in this game, so I don't know what went wrong. But yeah, Green Hell VR, I want to love it. It's middling for me. It's not love, it's like. So, Survive with a 3. I'm also going to put in B. That all rhymed. Survive is also kind of in there as like kind of a DayZ type of game, but with more of a story focus. You scavenge around houses and you play co-op and you fight against zombies. And I really enjoyed the gunplay on this one in the exploration. But I think the world felt a little stale for me, and the zombies did also feel a little bit stale. It's not quite living up to the full potential that it could have. But I understand it's from an indie studio. It's going to sit in B. I did enjoy this one, probably on the same level as Jurassic World. On a personal level, I did enjoy it, but I can see the flaws, and that brings it down a little bit for me. Vibe is going in B. Same can be said for Cosmodread, which was also rhymed again. I'm doing this a lot. Cosmodread is a cool roguelike game, very Dead Space inspired, and it's got some really cool encounters that happen procedurally, but the replay value isn't quite there compared to other roguelikes like the Light Brigade or Synapse. I feel like Cosmodread is made by one person though, so not a very fair comparison. But it does have its limitations, but it is a pretty spooky game, so if you've got the spare money and you want to have a little go at Cosmodread, I'd still recommend it, but it sits in B. Cooking Simulator VR as well. I can now talk about this one because it's out tomorrow when I'm recording this, which tells you when I recorded this. So I can now talk about this. I'm going to put it in A, to be honest. Even though the gameplay gets a little bit repetitive after a couple of hours, the fact that everything's physics-based was really, really cool. Like, I expected it to be very set positions for all your utensils and your ingredients. It's not. They can go anywhere, and it's up to you to organize everything, and if something does go wrong, it can very easily go wrong. So Cooking Simulator VR surprised me in a pretty good way. I really enjoyed that. So yeah, enjoy my time with that one. It's going to sit in A for me. Crossfire Sierra Squad is also going to go right in A, mostly because it's not an S for me because the light gun shooter sort of genre, I guess it's light gun, on rails-ish, kind of kills the immersion a little bit for me, but it's clawed its way out of B. Well, I say clawed, it's kind of propelled its way out of B for me because they've added the manual reloading system and a couple more immersive features that I really asked for and the community asked for, so happy with that. It's comfortably sitting in A now. I really enjoy Crossfire, and especially co-op. It's a lot of fun. Project Wingman, sorry, but you're going in D because you advertised that the whole campaign was in VR. It isn't. It's only a couple missions. Those missions, when you do eventually get them working, because the game basically doesn't work unless you turn off 120Hz mode on your TV, on your PlayStation, it'll just black screen for you. So that was the biggest problem. It was just a bit of a disaster of a launch, and I refunded my copy. Yeah, I was not happy with my experience with Project Wingman. It felt like it was trying to be Ace Combat, but just didn't reach those heights. And also, just the false advertising, really, that killed it. Yeah, I don't want to talk about this game anymore because it makes me sad. So, fingers crossed for Aces of Thunder. I hope that's good. Probably will be good. C-Smash VRS. You're going in A, buddy. I really like this game. Satisfying to play. Feels like an extension of the racquetball game mode from Rec Room, but really refined. But obviously Sea Smash is a game from the past. The visuals are really clean, runs at smooth 90, also has multiplayer, a load of modes to play, cool soundtrack. Thumbs up from me there. Really like Sea Smash VRS. Came out of nowhere for me and blew me away a little bit. But it's also not quite in terms of replay value for me. It doesn't keep me coming back as much as the S tier games do. So it's not quite up there for me, but it almost is. Just that type of sports game doesn't really draw me in like they do. So that's my justification for that. Behind the frame, I think we'll go in C in hindsight. I really enjoy the story on this one, but the game isn't that long and also doesn't look that great. And the mechanics are pretty janky. I would, if the story was complete ass, I would put it in D, but it's not. The story's actually very good. And the cutscenes are also really well drawn, and I love them. But the mechanics just aren't it. It might be in B if the mechanics were okay, but they're really not great. And again, I think if I reviewed this now, I would be less nice to it. All of my thoughts in that video were still, like, my own. I really meant that, but I feel like I did gloss over some of the issues a little bit, which was a mistake. I'll own up to it. But yeah, behind the frame, you'll go and see. Help Wanted 2, straight in the not played. I was planning to review this game, not get a code, which is okay, but I cannot justify spending £33 on a game that I won't really get a return out of that big in terms of video, if that makes sense. I just can't afford to spend money, especially that much on a game at the moment to review. So step away from Help Wanted 2. Ghost Signal. Get an A, Ghost Signal. You are a big surprise for me this year. Stellaris is a really cool franchise. I guess it's a franchise now because there are multiple games. Really cool universe. Ghost Signal takes advantage of that, shows you some really cool sights, some engaging combat. Didn't keep me coming back after I'd done quite a few runs because I felt like I'd seen the variations of everything that it had to offer, but it did keep me coming back for a while and I really enjoyed my time with it. This one is seriously like a stunning game as well. It looks great, it plays great. Ghost Signal comfortably sits in A above a lot of the games that are in A at the moment. It's bordering on S, it's like high A. Ghost Signal's pretty great. It seems in my tiredness of putting this list together a while ago, Job Simulator is there again. You can sit just like, you can go to the back of the queue and we won't add you again. Okay. Moving on to Journey to Foundation. Anyway, we will go A, I think. I originally, my first impressions video, it was bogged down by the first couple of hours really feeling like a tutorial for the mechanics that it wanted you to use. Past that point, it gets a lot more engaging, especially for me. I get bored at a lot of dialogue. Not necessarily a lot of dialogue, but a lot of dialogue that's just kind of exposition, which the start of the game really was. But as you go on, you use your powers a lot more. The combat's okay. It's pretty like basic, but it does the job. But the telepathic powers are really cool. So Journey's Foundation got a lot better in the latter half, and I'll give it an A for that. It's genuinely really cool, but it's a certain type of game that I enjoyed mostly, but I know a lot of people might not because of the real like lore heavy stuff it has, because it's based on the Isaac Asimov book, if I remember right. So yeah, Journey to Foundation, I'll sit it in A. I did enjoy it by the end. Tiger Blade, haven't played, under embargo currently. I really need to get around to playing it, but it might be that I get around to playing it after it's come out. But I do have a key for this one, so thank you for the devs for that. But I haven't got around to playing it as of the 14th, which is the day I'm recording this. And it might be the case this comes out at a time where I can't talk about it. So, Tiger Blade, you're sitting in embargoed and not played at the moment. Paper Beast was a big surprise for me, and is also going in A. It kind of came out of nowhere. I kind of vaguely remember it on PSVR 1, but the amount of interactions with physics-based stuff and the simulation in this game is awesome. Absolutely awesome. Really trippy visuals from a very creative mind, and I feel like you have to be on some sort of drugs or influence to actually understand the message that it's telling you. But yeah, amazing game. Came out of nowhere. The resolution leaves a little bit to be desired, which is why it's in an S, but I really did enjoy my time with it, so thumbs up from me there. Help Wanted, let's go with the OG. A. Some of the modes in the game aren't that engaging, but Help Wanted on PSVR 2 looks great and plays great, and if you're a fan of FNAF, you're going to get a real kick out of it. However, yeah, some of the modes and some of the playtime that you get out of it aren't the most engaging, but the modes that are there that are engaging are fairly plentiful. So yeah, it's a scary game as well. So I can say that. It genuinely does give you a lot of spooks with the atmosphere and the world design. Vertigo 2, I've got to be careful here because it is possible that Vertigo 2 has come out by the time that this video is out, or it's not under embargo anymore, but I'm going to choose my words carefully. So essentially how this is going to work, I'm going to review Vertigo 2 as a game and not as a PSVR 2 port. So if my review's out by now, I'm going to put a link to it in the description so you can go check it out for my full thoughts. But the game that's coming to PSVR 2 is exactly the same as the PCVR one. So I'm going to comment on the game's content, which is the same as PCVR, which technically isn't embargoed. So, yeah, Vertigo 2, from a writing standpoint, from a gameplay standpoint, from a visual standpoint, in terms of the art direction, is phenomenal. It's a real contender for VR Game of the Year, and that's all I'm going to say. I'm not going to speak about the PSVR 2 port, but in a way I am speaking about the PSVR 2 port because it's the same game. Yeah. That's very backwards. Sorry for confusing you. Vertigo 2 is an S. But that's just the content of the game and not the port quality, which I'll be talking about in my actual video of it. So I'm not breaking embargo. I'm talking about the content of the PCVR version, which is the same as what's coming to PSVR 2. Got it? Got it. Arizona Sunshine 2. You're going in A. The writing in this game, I think, is atrocious. Some people like it. I think it's awful. But I think some of the interactions are pretty damn good. The lighting looks good. The resolution of textures is okay. And it sits in A for me. And it's also not really that long because the price tag is very, very high. But it still does sit in A for me, definitely. Barbaria, get yourself an A as well because you're a hidden gem that came out of nowhere this year. A real weird type of game where you can possess your own units to go and attack other people's bases while they attack yours. Real worth looking into. I've done a video on this one. Go look it up if you're interested. But yeah, Barbaria, just in the visuals department, the combat department, and the gameplay just came out of nowhere and surprised me with how good it was. So big thumbs up from me there. Ancient Dungeon is exactly the same deal in A. Seriously good. I think it's not made by a very big team either. Possibly a couple people or one person. But yeah, Ancient Dungeon, pretty awesome. Smoothest playing game probably on PSVR 2 in terms of reprojection because there is none. And it runs natively, and it feels amazing to play. Great physics interactions, but the game, I think, has 4 levels, which may take you a while, but once you've gone through those, there isn't that much replay value in them. But there's a lot to explore here. But overall, it is an indie game that I can't really put on the same tier as something like Village or Vertigo 2 or GT7. So it's sitting in A. Really fun game, though. I do love it. Firewall Ultra, my friend. You've had a rough time. Some of your stuff has been fixed, but not all of it. And for that, you're going to go into B. I really want to love this game. I really do. And we're almost there, but we're not quite into that A category. They're still putting work into this and bringing out new maps, but I think it's just the manual interactions that aren't there that kind of kill it for me. And they kill it for a lot of other people too. So yeah, Firewall Ultra, I want to love you, but I can't. Broken Edge, another pretty simple A for me. The combat is pretty fun. We haven't really had a VR dueling game. It's the first of its kind in terms of that stuff. And has some really interesting mechanics with a lot of classes, a lot of cool little locales to fight in, and some genuinely satisfying combat when you get the hang of it. So, Broken Edge, big fan. Honor and Duty D-Day. This is where I'm going to have a little bit of a hiccup, a little bit of a hitch here. There's a little asterisk by where I'm putting this, because it's the beta that I've played. A lot of us have played the beta, and it is a bit of a janky mess at times, and they're actively working on it. The amount of fun I have in this game, it's going in B. I know the mechanics, yeah, can be janky. Gunplay sometimes doesn't function correctly, but the amount of love that's poured into this game that we can clearly see, and the amount of community playtests that we've had, I'm still having a fun time with it. If everything gets ironed out for the full release, it'll probably move up a tier, or maybe be in high B. Honor and Duty D-Day, I don't think they're going to have another beta, but if there is one, I would say jump in if you have the chance. But yeah. Thumbs up from me on that one. But Honor and Duty D-Day Enhanced is in B tier for me. Same goes for Peaky Blinders The King's Ransom, a game that looks decent after they patched it, but still the gameplay leaves a lot to be desired, and so do the textures, because it is a quest game after all. If you're a Peaky Blinders fan like me though, you'll get a kick out of it, but it didn't quite draw me in as much as I really hoped it would. It's almost there, but it's not quite. So Peaky Blinders The King's Ransom is going to sit in B tier for me. Among Us VR, you can't really go wrong. It's A tier. It would be an S, but the fan base that this thing attracts, especially with crossplay, is just horrendous. There are children everywhere, but if you can get a lobby of nice people or get a lobby of friends, you're going to have a really good time with this, probably. Among Us VR, you really can't go wrong with. It's a tried and tested formula, so yeah, thumbs up. Kill It With Fire is also going to go C for me. I think it's about the same level as Behind the Frame. Visually, it's very nice, but in terms of gameplay, it does get old very, very quickly because it literally is the same thing over and over again with little variations between the environments and the weapons that you're using to kill spiders. So C for Kill It With Fire VR. It's a fun time, but I don't know if I'd pick it up outside of a sale. Resident Evil 4, I have just finished by the time of this recording, or I finished 2 days ago or yesterday. Easy S. Another strong contender for VR Game of the Year for me. Pretty incredible. Yeah, no notes from me. I'm pretty blown away. I'm speechless from my playthrough still. I'm still gathering my thoughts if I'm going to do a full review or not. But yeah, Resident Evil 4, that's just criminal making that a free upgrade. How have you done that? How it's the best value for money. Blown away. Yeah, speechless. All right, the final two, because Job Simulator is already on there. Oops. Rezzil Player, you'll sit in C as well. It's a good reaction time training simulator, but it's not something I'd really jump into that much. And unless you're looking specifically for a game like that, I can't really recommend it above C, because there isn't that much to it in terms of variation either. So, Rezzil Player, you'll sit in C. And Epic Rollercoasters, it surprised me. It's free, and it gives you 4 tracks when it's free, and you can pay £10 for the rest of the expansions. Offers a bit of gameplay variation, but ultimately, once you've done the coasters, you've done them, and that's it, in their 3 different game modes. So you're also going to go in B. It's a good way to kind of show off the headset to friends or family, though. Don't get me wrong, but yeah, it's going to sit in B for me, I think. Epic Rollercoasters goes in B. And that wraps our PSVR2 tier list. My recording has gone for 51 minutes and 27 seconds. So that's taken a while, almost an hour. And you can tell my voice is degraded over this video. I'm trying very hard to speak. But yeah, you can see the amount of S tier and A tier games and the little amount of D and C tier games. Absolutely incredible stuff this year for PSVR 2. Thank you all for watching, for joining me. There should be one more PSVR 2 video coming out either before or after this that kind of wraps up the year in PSVR 2 for me and in terms of content, and saying thank you to all you guys. Thank you again to all you guys for joining me for this and for this year. The support has been unreal. So thank you all, and I hope to see you all in the next video.